Hello everyone, welcome to our presentation for the 90% design of the Downtown-Uptown-Oakland-East End Bus Rapid Transit Project. My name is Amy Silberman. I'm the Director of Planning with the Port Authority, and I'm going to be taking you through today's presentation. So our agenda for today is two parts. First, this presentation that I'm starting right now. Within that presentation, we're going to go over about 10 different components of this Bus Rapid Transit project. We'll start by talking about the project partners and organizations, the goals and an overview of Bus Rapid Transit. We will talk about how the service will change as an effect of this project. We will talk about station locations and station design, bicycle infrastructure, and then items that have to do with general traffic, so drop-off and pickup activity, loading and unloading activity, and parking. We'll talk about fare collection for the transit service, some sustainability components of this project, and then the project costs and timeline. After I go through that presentation, which will probably take something like 45 minutes or so, we will then have hopefully plenty of time for a question and answer session. So jumping right into things, the project partners for this Bus Rapid Transit project, this is a unique project in that it is being overseen by 4 different entities: the Port Authority of Allegheny County, our transit authority, the City of Pittsburgh and their Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, Allegheny County through their Economic Development Department, and our Urban Redevelopment Authority within the City of Pittsburgh. So all 4 of us are collaborating on this project to make it happen. Project goals in no particular order. So some of the things we are trying to accomplish here, we're trying to improve access for people of all ages and all abilities. That certainly includes looking at the Americans with Disabilities Act. Also includes thinking about people who might be carrying different goods or traveling with children or might be older or younger. Now we want to make sure that this project is for everyone. Comfort and ease of use, that goes along with access, but thinking about things like shelter and amenities for our passengers while they are waiting for transit. Efficiency, most notably with this project, and as we'll see on the next slide, we're really looking to increase the reliability of transit throughout the Downtown-Uptown and Oakland corridor within the City of Pittsburgh. We're also looking at equity in this project. We want to ensure that communities that have the greatest need for public transit investments are being served through this project and do have direct connections into this corridor. Safety is certainly always top of our list. We are looking to make sure that all users within this system of all different modes, so that includes pedestrians, that includes riders, that includes cyclists, and that includes people driving in cars or riding in cars, are in a safe network and have safe opportunities to get to and from where they're going. And then finally, sustainability. We want to try and encourage more people to take transit or other modes like walking and biking by shifting them out of single occupancy vehicles. That's what SOVs stands for on the slide. And then we also want to improve air quality. One of the ways we're doing that is through procuring some battery electric buses, or BEBs, through this project. And then I'll talk about a couple other sustainability metrics as we go along as well. So why this corridor? This is the 2nd and 3rd largest employment centers in the state of Pennsylvania, and many of you have probably seen this video before, but I will play it here for you. It shows when 2 buses of the same route between downtown, which is right here, uptown, and Oakland are coming within 1 block of each other. That's when we start to see these red blobs form. So certainly prior to the pandemic and also now, we are still seeing significant bus bunching in this corridor. One of the reasons for that is because we have very inconsistent traffic patterns throughout these streets. There's not a lot of parallel street network, so people are pretty confined to one road in terms of traffic for cars. That tends to lead in gaps in service for our buses, and the buses can get bunched. Once buses get bunched, the leading bus usually becomes overcrowded, and then the buses that are following that often are empty. That then leads to late and early buses as they get more and more overcrowded or more and more empty. And then that leads to even larger gaps in service, more bunching of buses, and then again, less consistent traffic patterns. So this is a positive feedback loop that's happening in this corridor. And so we're looking to ways to increase the reliability of buses. So what is bus rapid transit, and how does it help us accomplish these goals and solve some of these reliability problems? So first and foremost with this project, we're looking at dedicating space in the public right-of-way for transit vehicles only. So you see here in this image, that's by way of a red bus-only lane, and you see a bus traveling in that bus-only lane. This provides us a reliable source of getting through the corridor and making sure that those buses stay on time. It also includes transit signal priority. That helps buses have a little bit longer or a little bit earlier of a green light in order to get through to serve the station, which often might be on the far side of the intersection, such as we see here. Here's our intersection, so the bus has to travel through the intersection to serve the station. That includes specially branded buses. We want people to know that this system is different from the rest of our system so that they understand this system is very reliable and faster. This includes upgraded stations with real-time arrival information and fare payment options. So we are looking at lots of amenities with this project. Upgraded pedestrian amenities, as I already mentioned, safety being a priority here, as well as access. We want to make sure, whether you're a transit rider or not, that this corridor is safe for your last mile or so of getting to your final destination. So that means whether you're parking your bike, parking your car, getting off the bus, or any other modes, that you are able to get through the doors of your building safely, so you can cross the street safely and access all of the things that you need. Economic development opportunities come along with bus rapid transit projects, similar to other types of transit projects where we invest capital dollars in a corridor. And we'll have changes to street parking that come along with this project as well that I'll explain in more detail later in the presentation. So where will this bus rapid transit project go? I mentioned linking downtown, uptown, and Oakland. You can see them here on the map. This project will actually incorporate 5 different bus routes. So I'll follow them here on the map so you can sort of see where they head. First, the 61Cs, the 61A, 61B, and 61C will travel from downtown through uptown, through Oakland, and then continue out Forbes Avenue, just like they do today, into the Squirrel Hill neighborhood. In Squirrel Hill, just like they do today, they will separate the 61A and B, continue along Forbes Avenue into the Regent Square neighborhood, where they then separate the 61B heading south through Regent Square and points beyond to terminate in Braddock, and then the 61A doing the same thing, but after traveling first through Wilkinsburg. The 61C from the heart of Squirrel Hill heads south down Murray Avenue through the neighborhood of Greenfield. This is the end of the sort of infrastructure area for this BRT project. You see proposed station areas here in orange dots. But beyond that, the route does continue all the way to its terminus down in McKeesport. The routing of those 3 routes will be the same as they are today. The 4th route that's part of this project is the 71B. The 71B will continue outbound through Uptown, although it will stay on Forbes Avenue. Today it actually runs outbound on 5th Avenue in Oakland. All bus traffic will stay on Forbes Avenue in Oakland. Then it will head out, as it does today, out 5th Avenue and then up Highland Avenue into Highland Park. And I'll talk about some minor changes to the terminus of that route later on. And then the 5th route is actually our P3 Oakland East Busway route. That bus route today actually ends here in Oakland. It's going to be extended into downtown Pittsburgh. And today it goes all the way out to Swissvale, which is the end of our East Busway. It will actually terminate here in Wilkinsburg. This area between downtown and Oakland is the area where we are putting in bus-only lanes and protected bicycle facilities with this project. Points beyond that, you'll see on these 2 what we're calling branches have orange dots for stations. So they will be receiving station and limited intersection improvements, but for the most part, beyond this red box, we're not looking at bus lanes or bicycle facilities. So I mentioned the 5 routes that are becoming BRT with this project, the P3, the 61A, B, and C, and the 71B. Then there are 4 local routes that are sort of sister routes to those that will actually be terminating in Oakland that today run all the way into downtown Pittsburgh. They are the 61D and the 71A, C, and D. They will come inbound and be routed exactly as they are today to about Craft Avenue, which is here on the western edge of Oakland, and then they will turn around and head back outbound. Some other proposed route changes include, I mentioned the P3 being shortened at its outer end to Wilkinsburg and will no longer travel all the way to Swissvale. The 67 and 69 will still serve downtown Pittsburgh, but will use Boulevard of the Allies inbound through Uptown rather than traveling along 5th Avenue. And then there will be downtown routing changes that result from this BRT project. That planning is actually just getting underway now, so we don't have any final things to show you on that yet, but there will be more discussion happening in 2021 with that. And then same thing with Oakland. There will likely also be minor routing changes along 5th and Forbes Avenues with some of the other routes in Oakland, but planning is also getting underway with that, and we will have more discussions next year. So here's an overview of downtown and the changes to the street network that will result from this BRT project. The biggest change in downtown is that the buses that are currently the 61s and 71s that operate on this loop of 6th Avenue, Liberty Avenue, and 5th Avenue will be reversed. So all bus traffic will come inbound on 5th Avenue, which is right here off the edge of our screen on the right. I'll come in here on 5th Avenue and stop first at what we're calling the Grant Street station in front of the BNY Mellon building. The next station will continue along westbound here to stop just past William Penn Place. The buses will continue in their bus-only lane all the way to Market Square Station at the corner of Market Street, Liberty Avenue, and 5th. Then buses will turn right up Liberty Avenue, stop again at Wood Street Station, just across the street from our Wood Street T Station, continue out 6th Avenue in a bus-only lane to serve Steel Plaza Station, again in front of our Steel Plaza T Station, and then hook back around and head outbound on Forbes Avenue. In Uptown, I've split this screen into 2 different images because Uptown's pretty long. So you can see the western half of Uptown here on the top image, the eastern half of Uptown here on the bottom image. We have 5 station pairs in Uptown. They're named the Uptown West Station Pair. That's in front of PPG Paints Arena and Duquesne University. Pride Street Station Pair, just about in front of UPMC Mercy. Uptown Central Station, about at Dinwiddie Street or so. Jumonville Street Station at Jumonville. And then finally what we're calling Soho Station. The Soho Station pair, as you can see, is a little bit split apart based on the routing here being a little bit more challenging. There are some not only bus lanes in Uptown, but also bicycle lanes. You can see them proposed in green here. Those are protected bicycle facilities. In general, they will run in 2 directions along 5th Avenue in front of PPG Paints Arena. Then they will split into a single direction operation on each street. You will continue outbound if you're on your bike on Forbes Avenue and inbound on your bike on 5th Avenue. Then near Moultrie Street, we end up with a 2-way bicycle facility again in the what's currently the contraflow or backwards running bus lane that's in that far south lane there on 5th. Here's an image of what the conceptual design of this BRT station might look like at Duquesne University on Forbes Avenue, just beginning to move through Uptown towards Oakland. So you can see the station area here is far side of an intersection, so the bus will travel through the intersection before stopping. You see a bus here just leaving the station. The stations have ticket vending machines, benches, real-time arrival signage, and then obviously wayfinding signage. Upgraded pedestrian amenities like new curb cuts and new crosswalks. Oakland, so we have an overview sheet here of what Oakland will look like. The general traffic pattern for buses will be outbound on Forbes Avenue, like some of the bus traffic does today, but all of the bus traffic will do this under the BRT scenario. And then inbound, just like it is today, all bus traffic will move inbound on 5th Avenue. Today, there is a contraflow or backwards running bus-only lane on Fifth Avenue. That bus-only lane will be turned into a two-direction bicycle facility that's protected. So bicycle traffic will all be on Fifth Avenue in both directions. Here's a sort of typical section of what Fifth Avenue would look like. So here today we have parking, then we have 4 travel lanes. This is one of the widest parts of Fifth Avenue in Oakland. And then that contraflow or backwards running bus lane that heads eastbound. Under BRT, the lane closest to the right curb will turn into a bus-only lane, which somewhat de facto is what it operates as today. Much of that offset street parking will actually still remain, and I'll talk about how that will work shortly. And then that contraflow bus lane turns into a two-way bicycle facility that's protected. Here's an example of what that might look like. So this is looking at Fifth Avenue at the University of Pittsburgh. This is Tennyson Avenue. You see that two-way bicycle facility here up at sidewalk level. You see the travel lanes running straight through. On this particular block, we actually have added some street parking to the left side of the street on Fifth, which is sort of in front of the Cathedral of Learning here. And then we have a conceptual station design and layout here with some ticket vending machines, benches, etc., area for the bus doors to load. And then this actually is an area where cars are also able to make right turns, and I will talk about how that works in a minute, but that's why this red bus lane is in this sort of striped paint in this area. And then you see the bus just departing the station, heading, continuing on inbound. On Forbes Avenue, our sort of typical section of the street today is on the far left is on-street parking, and then 3 lanes of through traffic. What that will look like under BRT is pretty much the same, with the exception of the right-most lane or southernmost lane becoming a bus-only lane, with the exception of areas where cars can make right turns, which again I'll talk about in a moment. Then as we head out into the Squirrel Hill branch, I'm not going to continue to go over the design drawings for all of those. They're a little bit more simple. There are no bus lanes or bike lanes proposed to be added to this section. So it's mostly just upgrading the bus stops to bus stations and upgrading a couple of the signals. We have some, most of these are pretty small stations, and some of them are on bump outs to extend the sidewalk a little bit further and provide more room to pedestrians. The last station pair is here in front of the Giant Eagle in Greenfield at Loretta Street, and then the 61C from here continues its normal routing. Any other buses serving this branch would also use these BRT stations and would not stop in between these stations. And then the Highland Park branch continues out 5th and Highland Avenues. Again, similar, no bus or bike lanes proposed on this branch. Station upgrades for the most part, a few signal upgrades, 13 station pairs. And then we do have some end-of-line bus rerouting, as this is a terminus of 2 bus routes here. The community had consensus around moving these bus routes to no longer travel on the 2 streets in the northernmost part of the neighborhood that it does today. So in the future design condition, the 71B BRT route will head up Highland Avenue, turn left on Bryant Street, right on Negley, and then turn around on Mellon Terrace, where it will lay over. This is an image here of Mellon Terrace, where there will be bus layover facilities, so buses at the end of the line can wait and then pull out and serve this small station, pick people up, and begin their inbound trip. The 71A route, which is not proposed to be part of the BRT system, will also be rerouted in Highland Park to serve this same corridor in this northernmost end of the route. This map shows the station Walksheds. We are proposing to have fewer bus stops along these routes than currently serve these routes today. So the Walkshed is an area that most people can walk or wheel or roll from stops in order to access the surrounding area. It uses the street network to show pathways that people can maneuver to get where they're going. And usually when we're talking about local buses, we consider a 5-minute walk from a bus stop or station to be the area at which most people are willing or able to walk. Usually when we look at rapid services such as this, we would use a 10-minute Walkshed. People are more willing to walk further or roll further to get to a rapid station. But for apples to apples comparison's sake here, we used a 5-minute walk shed, both for the existing network, which is underlying in sort of a bluish purple on the map here, and then an orange walk shed for the proposed BRT system over that on top in orange. You can see there are very few purplish blue areas. They're kind of around the edges of the orange area. That's showing an area where someone is about exactly a 5-minute walk today from a bus stop that would be further than a 5-minute walk in the future from a BRT station, but just barely. You can see these areas are relatively small. The largest one actually is sort of this upper east corner of Highland Park. So most folks who are within a 5-minute walk today will remain within a 5 or less minute walk of a BRT station. The stations on average are about a quarter mile apart. Our guideline for rapid services is actually much further than that. It's a half mile apart. But we've heard a lot of community feedback throughout this process with the density of destinations throughout this corridor, and as well as residents, that people wanted those stations to be closer together than a half mile. So we have landed at about a quarter mile. Station design and amenities. So I've shown the conceptual station design on a few previous renderings. You see a third one here. This is at the Market Square station at the intersection of Liberty Avenue, Market Street, and Fifth Avenue in downtown. So it's a relatively simplified and streamlined station design. This isn't anything, architecturally crazy or, really elaborate. The intent there is that we are looking for these stations to be easy to maintain, easy to fix with simplified and streamlined parts that we can have, ordered and in storage and ready to go should something break or something need to be repaired. They're also more, cost effective to keep more streamlined like this. And then it also allows us to have future expansion of the BRT system here in Allegheny County and allow us to mirror this design in other places. So rather than being really specific to the Oakland corridor, we want this system to be something that could be used throughout the county on many different corridors and to indicate to you that this is a rapid station. These stations will have shelter. Certainly, as you can see here, we have both roof and a back. That was very important to people when we asked them about station design. We'll have ample seating, real-time signage, ticket vending, and validators. You can see some down here, and emergency call buttons. Ticket vending machines, or TVMs as we call them for short, will not be at every single station area out on the branches, but will at least be at every other station, and for the most part, they are at every station. Apologies. Fare structure. So the fare structure all along, we've been saying this, there's no changes here. We do not, we're planning and expecting that the fare structure for the Bus Rapid Transit project be the same as the existing Port Authority fare structure. The only caveat or note there is that we are undergoing a separate fare study right now internally at Port Authority, and that study will go externally in 2021. And recommendations from that study may be put in place in the future, and that could affect our existing fare structure. So we will continue to anticipate and expect that BRT will have the same structure as whatever Port Authority's fare structure is in the future. Moving to bicycle infrastructure, we have, as I mentioned, protected bicycle infrastructure in both Uptown and into Oakland. This bicycle infrastructure, especially in Uptown, is going to be at sidewalk level with little separation between the sidewalk and the bike lane. So I did just want to make note that our design team has been hard at work, working both internally as well as with a national group that has to look at changes to designs that are approved by the ADA to make sure that these bike lanes are as accessible as possible to someone with limited sight. So we want to make sure no one's walking into that bike lane without knowing it. So we are looking at tactile indicators that separate that bike lane from the general sidewalk area for people who may not have the ability to see where the bike lane begins. And then moving back to general traffic and how it will integrate with this project. There are many places in Oakland and Uptown, where cars will be allowed to enter the bus-only lane in order to make a right turn. This is faster for everyone, including the buses, than having separate signals for buses only in order to keep the general traffic in a traffic right turn lane. So it allows everybody to continue moving smoothly, and usually is indicated by this striped red bus paint, as you see here in the image on the left. I'm going to show a video here, kind of how that looks from a traffic model perspective. Note that the red striped bus lane here on the right is not striped. That's just a limitation of our model. It would normally be a striped pattern to indicate an area where cars enter the right turning lane and bus lane combo and then make their right turn. So we see here a bus moving through the bus lane and coming up to serve the station. A car that then wanted to make a right turn would go into that lane at the appropriate place where the lane becomes striped, wait behind the bus until the bus clears the area, and then continue on its way to make the right turn. Here, the example is onto Tennyson Avenue in Oakland. There are right turns. Moving along to talking about street parking and the use of the curb. So in Uptown, we are significantly changing the amount of available on-street parking. For the most part, the right side of each 5th and Forbes Avenues in the direction of the lane of travel will be eliminated. So we are losing some on-street parking in Uptown. Uptown has had a lot of concurrent and other planning processes happening simultaneously with this project, and we are aware that there is ample additional off-street and other parking in the neighborhood. In Oakland, Forbes Avenue is relatively unchanged as regards to parking. All of the parking along the left side of the street in the direction of travel will remain. 5th Avenue in Oakland actually gains some parking between Bigelow and Belfield Avenues on the south side or left side of the street on that block, as the bidirectional bike lane cuts south to Forbes at Bigelow Boulevard. So we don't need the two-directional bike lane right there. And then there are some cases on 5th Avenue where parking will actually take place across the bus lane. So you can see in this image here, there is on-street parking on the other side of a bus lane. Cars would do what they would normally do when merging from one lane to another. So make sure there's no cars in the lane you're merging to, which in this case is a bus lane. So making sure there's no buses, merging right into the bus lane and then putting on your directional and then parallel parking or pull-in parking to this street curb parking. Okay, and moving to starting to talk about how all of these modes interact with each other, we have a video from our traffic model. This video is of the Bigelow Boulevard at 5th Avenue intersection, and it is designed to show how the bus lane, which is traveling westbound here along 5th Avenue towards downtown, interacts with pedestrian activity crossing the intersection, how car traffic, which is also traveling westbound, interacts, and how a two-way bicycle facility, which I believe I made a mistake in my statement on the prior slide. This two-way bicycle facility does travel past Bigelow all the way to Belfield, but we do have some on-street parking here. You can see that a travel lane is taken to provide some on-street parking there. But also this video will show how the bicycle activity and bicycle signals work at this intersection, as when we have two-way bicycle facilities, we need to have separate bike signals to control that activity and make sure all modes are safe. So here we go. So we see car and bus traffic traveling westbound on 5th, and then we'll zoom in here so that we are looking at the intersection a little bit closer. We've got traffic moving along Bigelow now, and 5th Avenue is stopped. You can see pedestrians crossing the street. You also see the bike traffic is also stopped here. So there's a person on their bike waiting for the bike signal. Bike signal is now turning green along with the pedestrian travel heading up and down 5th Avenue. Turning car, waiting for pedestrians to clear the intersection. There we go. And then we will also zoom forward a little bit to look at a specific unique design on this corridor. We have one BRT station, which is going to allow local buses, so all the other bus routes that are not part of the BRT system, to sort of get out of the way and allow the BRT bus to bypass them. This is just to make sure that the BRT reliability can be prioritized in this one location as we sort of enter the heart of Oakland. So you see here a bus in the bus lane. It's about to move through the Bigelow intersection. This is a local bus. It's going to pull off the bus lane into what looks like a parking area. This is a local bus stop. This is specific to this station only. And now we see the BRT come through. The BRT will actually stay in the bus lane, and the station is right here. So this BRT bus is serving the station right now. The local bus finished serving the local bus stop and pulled back into the bus lane, and it is now behind the BRT. So we have this design once on 5th Avenue and then once again on Forbes Avenue. The Forbes Avenue example is in front of McGee Hospital. So sort of as we enter Oakland from either direction, we provide this one place where the local bus is able to move over and allow a BRT, if there's a BRT bus behind it, to get in front of it to continue moving along. So just wanted to give you an overview of that. Oops. All right, pickup, drop off, and loading. So these are always, things that we need to talk about and think about. How, operations of all different types will occur on these corridors. So general traffic will not be allowed to pick up and drop off in the BRT lanes, in the red bus lanes. We see here an example, I believe this is in DC, the H Street corridor, where we have a, looks like USPS mail truck stopped in the bus only lane. So that will not be allowed. We're still discussing things like enforcement and how we really make sure that this bus lane remains clear and open for buses. We do know that the flexibility of a BRT over something like light rail transit is that buses can move out of travel lanes. So it is not necessarily the end of the world if a bus is blocked by a parked vehicle. It's not great. It's not what we want. But it, unlike light rail, doesn't mean that the whole system shuts down. So the bus can go around. But we will continue to have those discussions with the city and with our police forces for how we make sure that we have meaningful enforcement of keeping these bus lanes open throughout the corridor. And then the city will also continue to look for places where they can update signage to make sure that shorter curb activities like pickup drop-off activity or loading and unloading activity can be prioritized in some cases over street parking where it is needed or the times of day that it's needed. And then paratransit pickup drop-off. Obviously, Port Authority is the umbrella for all transit services here in Allegheny County, so that includes our paratransit operations. Access Paratransit will be allowed to use these BRT lanes to pick up or drop off passengers when they need to. They are, required to be able to serve door-to-door destinations under ADA, so we need to allow them to do that where it's necessary. The good news is that actually along this corridor, 97% of the activity is already occurring off of 5th and Forbes Avenues. So whether it's the hospitals that have driveways or alternate entrances or places where there's a parking or pickup drop-off location on a side street, there are actually not very many places on 5th and Forbes where the access paratransit vehicles need to stop on the curb lane where the bus lanes will be. So yes, that's a what not to do. Sustainability. So I mentioned that sustainability is a key goal of this project. There are a few different sort of topic areas where this comes into play. One is with battery electric buses. We are planning to procure 15 60-foot battery electric buses to operate on the P3 route, which is the Wilkinsburg East Busway, Oakland Downtown route. And the part of the reason that the P3 is being shortened to Wilkinsburg is because we have property near Wilkinsburg Station that will allow us to put in fast chargers for these buses so that they can charge without having to return to the garage. So those buses will all be based out of our East Liberty bus garage, and that is also the place where we currently have our first few electric buses and where we are planning to procure more with some other grants that we have received for other projects. So East Liberty will be our battery electric bus garage for all things at the moment. Another topic area is trees. So obviously we are impacting the corridor. Most notably, we're impacting the sidewalk network in Uptown. So that's the place where we actually see the largest change in terms of where we are proposing to remove or add trees. You can see here in the chart, we have a summary of how many and how the caliper size, that's how thick the trunk is of a tree, how many trees we're planning to remove by neighborhood and then add by neighborhood for this project. In total, you see that we are proposing to remove about 120 trees and add about 350. The overall net change to the system here with this project is an additional 230 or so trees and an additional 400 or so inches of caliper or tree trunk size. I will note that there is one significant area where this tree loss will be impactful. That is here at what we're proposing to be our Central Oakland station. This is in front of the Pitt Law Library on Forbes Avenue. We are looking east in this image here. You see 5 very mature trees in this planter. Based on the station designs that we are currently working on with the University of Pittsburgh, as well as the project partners, the changes to this tree pit that will result from adding a station here are very likely going to cause 2 of these trees to be lost. And that is a significant loss. We've been talking about it a lot with both the University of Pittsburgh and our project partners. And certainly would like to hear from all of you about that as well. So we are replacing, more trees and more thickness of trees than we are removing. But these 2 in particular, especially in the Oakland corridor where the tree canopy is relatively limited, are certainly a significant loss. The final topic is stormwater. So we are partnering with PWSA on this project, most notably in Uptown, where a lot of utility replacement is happening in advance of the BRT project beginning its construction in Uptown. So PWSA has actually designed 20 green infrastructure systems in conjunction with this project. And those systems will manage approximately 6 acres of stormwater runoff and reduce overflows in the system by about 2 million annual gallons. So that is a positive. Moving along to project costs. Project cost has stayed steady at about this $230 million mark through the last year or so. This is a breakdown of what that $230 million is proposed to be spent on. You see the largest chunk of the pie here is with systems. So that's ticket vending machines, communications, security, all of the things that come along with those elements. Another big chunk on professional services that obviously includes all of the design and planning work that has already happened or is currently underway, but also construction management services. This is a very complicated construction management project, being 2 extremely busy corridors right in the middle of the city. So construction management will be significant. Then vehicles, purchasing those battery electric buses, that's the increment cost over the cost of a normal bus that is proposed to be part of this project. About 9% to stations, 8% to contingency for things we don't know when we start opening up some of these roads and some of these sidewalks. 7% to support facilities. That's our charging infrastructure and our layover facilities for the buses. And then 5% to right-of-way and land. There are a few extremely minor areas where we need to procure either a parcel or a small bit of right-of-way to add to the city's public right-of-way to allow the project to move forward. And where is this $230 million coming from? This also has not changed significantly in the last year. We're looking still at about $100 million of this project, or just under it, coming from our federal Small Starts Grant application, so 43% of the project cost. And then I'll move counterclockwise from there around this pie chart. About 14% coming from Allegheny County, about 12% that we are still in the process of acquiring. Either that is through active grant applications that are either being put in now or we are waiting to hear back from, and then a few other sources that have not yet been secured. 10% to some other federal sources, that's mostly bus procurement costs. 10% from Port Authority's capital budget, 9% from the city's capital budget, and then 2% from the state. Looking at the timeline, we have completed 2019 is over. That was at our 60% design level. Now in 2020, we have been working on our 90% design level. It is now done as of about a month or so ago. We are conducting stakeholder engagement to review those 90% designs today. And then early next year, we hope to have some broad public meetings, probably similar to this one, where we review these final designs and make sure that people have an opportunity to see what those final designs look like and alert us to any outstanding issues that we may have. We also then plan next spring, assuming all of the financial components of this project are solidified in the next 6 months or so, we'd like to bid and let the project with our engineering team and begin construction next fall. The right-of-way acquisition to a few of those minor sliver takes will continue to occur over the next year or so in our legal teams. And then that construction period for the project, which would start next fall, will be about a 24-month period ending in late 2023. And then revenue service changes would occur at that time. So that concludes the presentation component of today's meeting. We're now going to move into the question and answer period. And we'll turn it back over to the screen in a moment to remind you how to do that if you aren't sure or if you joined us later. If you don't want to ask a question in this group or we run short on time and haven't gotten to your question yet, please feel free to email us at brt@portauthority.org and we will get back to you that way. And then if you want any of the project information that was shared today, including an interactive map that we have, some of the roll plot sheets that we showed with the red bus lanes and the green bike lanes, our actual design documents themselves and some of these renderings, feel free to go to portauthority.org/BRT. All of our project information and documents are kept there. Thank you so much for joining us for the presentation today, and we look forward to hearing about your questions.